call the Waterworks and Lighting Commission meeting to order for February 11th, 2015. Approval, additions, or corrections to the minutes for the last regular commission meeting held January 14th.
I'll move we accept the meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have some action items on the agenda today. The first one is the distribution transformers. Todd is here to answer any questions you may have.
I guess just history, every January we go out and we go out for bids for our distribution transformers so that we can get the best pricing possible. There were four companies that quoted manufacturers, Resco, Border States, Wesco, and then Irby. And Resco, which is quoting Cooper transformers for the pad mounts, which are made in Waukesha, and then Ermco transformers for the overhead transformers, which are made in Arkansas, I believe. They were the low price at $128,890. And Resco also gives us a patronage allocation refund check every year. So in addition to them being low, we'll also receive a 2 to 4% back on our purchase. So I'm recommending that we go with Resco this year for the distribution transformers.
I make a motion, we accept his recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the low bid from Resco. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second item is the training request from Joel Matthews. Joel, would you like to add anything to your request?
Sure. NASC is the vendor for our billing and customer information system software and accounting software. This training would focus on the customer information system and billing software. It will give me a chance to dig a little deeper into things like the collections process and disconnect process and the bill calculation process and how the software handles all that. Smaller group setting, I think it'd be a good time for me to head over there and dig a little deeper into these processes.
Okay.
I move that we send Joel to the NISC training session.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jeff Kuhn has a training request for Tasia. Would you like to add to that, Jeff?
Sure. APPA puts these education institutes on about 3 times every year. They're a really good opportunity to network with people and to be able to get the basics of strengthened and really get a deeper understanding of utility accounting, work order process, asset management processes. Tasia will be with us about 2 years when she goes here, so it's a really good time for her to kind of refresh a little bit and kind of learn a little bit more and be able to be a little more productive.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, the other action item is for barcoding, and as far as I know, there's no change in the budget or anything else, but do we need a motion to transfer funds? Or just because of the possible vendor change?
Vendor change, and it's different from what we've been telling you in the past, what our end goal was. So, and at the end, it turned out to be favorable in that way. We didn't think that going in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
So we'll still need a motion for this.
Yeah, the things that changed is we were looking at Resco's product. We got stalled on that product due to an issue with software. Late last year, we caught wind of a product from Irby, so we went and talked to them about it, and we've been working with them over the last 3 weeks. Todd did a lot of work to get this moving, and they came back. The differences are there's an annual maintenance fee now with their software versus there wasn't with Resco's, and then our current hardware won't work with it. But with other changes in the budget and different directions that we're going with different projects, we're able to still fit this within the budget without having any money.
Are there any questions for Matt?
You feel like this is,
Yeah, I think Matt's kind of looked deeper into the software, and he's very happy with it compared to what we were seeing from Resco. So I think it's a product that's going to work well.
I recommend we accept it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve Matt's recommendation. Thanks for your help, Todd. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Safety Committee report.
I have a question for Sean. I was reading in the NEUW report that your boss, Chris Shota, he is looking to get everybody going into something called safety by design. Could you explain that, what he means by that?
I'm not real sure offhand what you might be referring to.
Okay.
We have a few different programs that we're looking at starting this year through MEUW. So I'm not real sure exactly which one that was.
Okay. He did mention it in his article that he had in the letter. And I just was wondering what exactly it would be, other than, you're looking through, probably like what most safety companies do if there's problems on anything, and trying to make sure that you stop all hazardous events before they happen by the equipment. I don't know. Do you know, Jim? Do you have an idea?
I do not. I was just going to say, I read the article myself in Lines, and I have not a clue what he was referencing.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say...
It sounds good, though, doesn't it?
It does. So I say by another program, but...
That's half the battle.
I'd say you better take Chris to task.
Yeah, I will find out what exactly he's referring to in that one there.
I have a question also, Sean.
Yes.
Field inspections, what are some things you're looking for? What has been the response from the crew so far? And if you've had any recommendation?
A lot of the field inspections, the one that I did, I actually went through with Paul. We went out to see where some of the guys were working. And when we're going out and looking out there, we're essentially looking to make sure that the roads are blocked off the right way, everybody's wearing their correct PPE, everybody's actions are safe actions, and they're doing what they need to do to keep each other safe. So that's generally what we're looking into. Same thing applies basically to the facility inspections that I'll be conducting as well.
Okay, good, thank you. You had also mentioned that you're working towards developing a better agenda. Is that something you can share with us at this time?
Just looking at the safety committee, that does, as they we meet monthly. There's usually an open forum for discussion with safety topics. Just looking to see what we can do to pep that up a little bit more. I don't know in the past how the previous safety coordinator ran it, but I'd like to get some points and some topics to bring back out to the guys and, out in the shop and the garage and everything, and just things that we can share to keep safety kind of going all the time, little tidbits here and there.
Because I imagine a lot of topics are repeated annually. So you're looking at different ways to boost that up?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the guys, they've been here for long enough. There's annual trainings that have to occur. And if it's the same ones that OSHA and the state say we have to do every year, we don't really have too much of a choice. So it's really trying to figure out how we can present those, how I can present those in different ways, getting some different videos, just doing some different classroom activities and exercises and discussions, just to liven it up a little bit. Not that they come to the trainings that I do and just kind of shut off like, oh, I remember this from last year, I know exactly what he's going to say. Just trying to different ways to mix it up so they can leave feeling like they learned something new.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions for Sean? Okay, what about for Dale's safety committee? See, you've got some good topics that you discussed, and is there any way or is there any enforcement or any concerns with topics that are discussed with the safety committee?
Well, after this year, Paul and I and Todd got together and we talked to the guys, and the whole yard situation seems to be remedied.
Okay.
So that's been taken care of. Truck inspections, Chad's been working with the guys to be more forceful, making sure that gets done. As far as forklift goes, that's an ongoing thing, but we're working on that to try and make sure everybody does their part on that as well. So it's a matter of being more conscious of what's happening.
Is it more of a habit change?
Right.
So it's taking a little longer to...
To them, they have never had to do it, and most of them are long-time employees,
Sure.
so it's
Okay.
it's changing.
Well, I appreciate your efforts, don't give up. Any other questions for Sean or Dale? Okay. Line superintendent report.
I just want to point out on that report, because Paul and I were talking about this morning, that we only had 6 after-hour call-ins in January, which is a surprisingly low number. And now we're on the 11th day in February without a call-in in this month. So that's pretty impressive, I think, on their part.
Do you know what the average calls in January?
Probably about double that, about
Okay.
a dozen, so.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Paul? Water Department report. Have there been any water breaks since your report? Okay.
Oh, that's been quiet, thank goodness, and I'm sure it'll change.
Any questions or comments for Dale? Office manager report. Well, I'd like to thank Joel and the staff for the outstanding work they've been doing in the last year for accounts receivable. They've made huge progress in this area.
Thanks, I'll relay that to the staff.
Would you like to share with us, Joel, about the church group site visit?
Yeah, that's, they contacted us, gosh, I don't know, sometime before the holidays, and I guess Kurt Pulvermacher, the previous conservation manager, had given a presentation, I think the Retired Teachers Association a while back, and a couple of the members of this church group were at that and really enjoyed it. So they asked me to come down and talk to them a little bit, and Sean and I spent a good solid hour down there just talking about the utility, a little bit about the history. Sean gave a bunch of really valuable conservation tips, and we went through some sample bills so they understood exactly what the charges were and how they were calculated, and it went well.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. I'm assuming you're open to do more visits.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Joel? Director of Finance report. Jeff, you've been working on year-end numbers. Is there anything you can share with us at this time?
Sure, we have kind of a preliminary soft close done right now on the electric side. We're looking at about a 0.6% operating rate of return. It might fluctuate a little bit just depending on some final entries. On the water side, we're looking at about a 2.6% rate of return, operating rate of return. So both of them are-
That's for 2014?
That's for 2014, so they're both definitely a lot lower than what were authorized, so 2015 will definitely be better on the electric side, and then the water side should also follow. So.
Yeah, I noticed on Joe's report for the current receivables, we're about $500,000 down from last year in 2014 January. Is there any idea why we'd be that
Cold.
big of a difference? It's cold?
It was cold last year, and that's why we had a low rate of return on the water side too, is because we were detailing services and fixing water mains all year.
Purchase power costs are down, yeah, this year January compared to last year January. We also moved some of our larger customers' cycles. So some of our bigger industrial customers were cycle 2 customers, meaning they would get their bill right before the end of the month, but it would be due the next month, so we'd be carrying that as a current receivable. When we switched them to cycle 1 customers, they got their bill and everything within the same month that it was due. Not only does it help the PCA swings, but it also kind of helps that cash flow was the other part of it, so it kind of reduces that receivable and not carrying that receivable at the end of the month.
All right.
That's been a part of it too.
Any other questions or comments for Jeff? Information Systems Report. Matt, would you like to share with us where you're at with MapWise GIS software?
Yeah, right now we're just in the cleanup phase. So we're going through quarter section by quarter section, making sure all the information's in there. We're also kind of tweaking how the map looks on the computer, so that when we send this out to the guys to use on the trucks, or once we get it up on the website, we'll have a version of the map on the website as well, and we want it to look correct. So we've been getting some training on that and getting all that set up on the front end, so we're ready to go once we can kick it off.
Will this tie into that Quick Fix app
No.
that the city has?
No, we're not.
Okay.
We passed on that, the mayor did approach us, but most of our situations, when it happens, are emergency situations, so we don't want them taking a picture and emailing it, we want a phone call.
Okay. What about the outage management system?
They kind of tie together, they use the same map.
Okay.
But outage management, there's some other tweaking we have to do there. It doesn't use quite as much information as the mapping system, so we just, as we go through cleanup and we get outage management set up, that'll probably get launched first to the public, the outage management. And then there might be some other mapping solutions that we'll release to the public then once we get MapWise.
And then you're updating the mobile devices then?
That's actually the iPads, and Dale has an example of one of them that I got yesterday, so, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments for Matt? Conservation Manager Report. Sean isn't here, but I'm sure if you have any questions, they can be answered.
Focus on Energy. Is that still an ongoing program?
Yes,
Okay.
we pay them off.
Pay them every
Money for energy efficiency each month. And we should be getting our report actually from last year here shortly. Now generally, the past couple of years, our customers have taken home a lot more money than Water and Light has paid in, so it has been a good program for our customers.
Are there any other questions or comments? Director of Engineering and Electric Operations report. Todd, I hope you don't mind, but I'd like Moses to share with us the conference that he attended.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. It was a 3-day conference, but Todd and I had only attended the last 2 days because of the classes that they were offering. Among some of them, we attended in sort of OSHA clarification and update one hosted by Dave Krause. Sort of touch base on some of those subjects and anything that people needed questions answering on. And another one we went to was sort of a theft, sort of power theft class. I thought that was relevant to the project Sean and I are working on, Austin's, that you guys probably have read about in the past before. And probably the more important one was the one by ATC. As Todd mentioned, hopefully we would never have to be in that situation, but they just pretty much outlined the procedure we would have to follow if they ever needed to take us offline, or if we ever needed to shed power to help other utilities.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Todd or Moses? General Manager report.
Jim, in the live wire, they talked again about Presque Isle. And they made it sound like one of the mines is going to use the electric choice contract, is going to continue to buy from the Presque Isle plant.
Actually, the way, I don't know, I didn't read that one in live lines, but the way it is structured now, the deal that's been cut is that the SSR agreement will disappear here in the next few months, which we ended up getting the better of anyway. Our charges weren't as bad as we originally anticipated they were going to be for glue. But what this does is We Energies, who's buying WPS right now, has to give up their upcode service territory and the Presque Isle power plant to the Upper Peninsula Power Company, and the mines have agreed to drop their choice agreement with WPS and take service again from Presque Isle. So that's why the SSR agreement will eventually, in the next few months, hopefully disappear. And then the plan is, if the mines stay open past this 7-year window they're talking about running Presque Isle, then they've selected an Illinois company to look at building them natural gas combustion turbines to replace Presque Isle. But if I was building a large power plant on the bet that those mines would be open, I mean, that's where I see the problem in the deal long term. But it was a solution to Michigan not having to pay the real high SSR fees, because they're the ones that got stuck with most of it. And to them, it gets an Illinois or a Wisconsin entity out of Michigan as far as doing business as well, so they're happy about that.
You know, I looked in a few things and I saw that their congressman really liked to link the Upper Peninsula to a Michigan power company rather than to a Wisconsin power company.
Which is...
And I know those mines, Empire and the Tilden, they're owned by Cleveland Cliffs. And you know, that's the only mine that's active in Upper Michigan, I believe. And I toured that in the past, and their processing plant, I think you can put 3 Lambeau fields in it.
Really?
It's a giant operation, so if you don't have Presque Isle, you're probably gonna have to build your own plant to keep it going.
Right. So now, and the latest thing we've heard, originally we thought that We Energies was gonna drop the SSR at the MISO once the deal got signed, but now they're saying that they're gonna keep the SSR agreement in place for a few months to put leverage on Michigan to complete the deals, because they want out of Michigan too, I think. So if it all goes through as planned, I think it's win-win for everybody, actually.
Good.
Ken, would you like to share with us the MEUW Executive Committee meeting that you had?
Again, most of it revolved around the pole attachment agreements that we have with us, for its Solaris and Charter. But they have, Time Warner has basically challenged what they're being charged at the PSC in Oconomowoc. So the executive committee met to see, because eventually this will trickle down to all of us. We'll start picking up off one by one. And some of this is our own, I don't want to say mistake, but we have so many different contracts in place throughout the state. Our charges range from anywhere from $6 a pole attachment up to $60. We are right in the middle. We're about 17 or 18 bucks an attachment, and our contracts are executed relatively soon compared to the others. I think ours were done in the mid-90s. So it'll be a while before it ends up catching up with us in Rapids. They've already served notice in Kaukauna and Menasha that they're going to be next because they're the ones with the $60 charges. But the executive committee agreed that MEUW would help defray some of Oconomowoc's legal fees because this could get expensive at the PSC. And it was later that month, it was approved at the full board meeting. So the full board approved MEUW helping out Oconomowoc with legal fees. Just keep in mind that that's, for Rapids, that's 215 grand basically of electric revenue that if it goes away or is depleted, we have to make that up someplace else. So it's an important battle for us.
Now, that you said that's $17. Is that a one-time attachment? Is that a month?
One time per year.
One time per year, they pay $17 for every
Correct.
pole.
Well, for everyone they're attached to.
To everyone they're attached to, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this will play out at the PSC probably through summer. Maybe we'll get an early fall ruling on it, but then that doesn't, PSC cannot enforce or change contracts, so all they would do is basically set up guidelines. And they're essentially going to have to come after every one of us to get a new deal. So it's going to be costly for them as well, so we'll see how this thing plays out, but it's important for us to take up the battle. And we haven't had any problems. I mean, we attached to some of Solaris's poles. Neither one, we're paying the same fee as they are, so there really hasn't been any, from the utilities that we work with, there hasn't been any issues back and forth. The one that's really carrying the ball on this is Time Warner, and luckily they're not in our service territory, but they are in a large portion of Wisconsin.
Kim, would you like to share with us the APPA Joint Action Committee meeting you attended?
Yes, I mean, the two main presentations were again on the EPA Clean Air Plan and how that's going to affect the joint action agencies that serve wholesale power within the United States, because there are APPA members there from all over the country. And there were some dollar numbers associated with it, and here again, nothing about it is going to be good for rates, but anyway. And then they had a good segment on human resources on how to attract and retain talent, especially in the utility industry these days, because it's an aging industry. Lots of retirements expected in the next several years, and not as many young college graduates, thank you Moses, for joining the utility industry. I guess it isn't quite sexy enough for them anymore. They've either got to be doing computers or whatever the newest gadgets are. I think eventually they'll find out that utility business is a pretty good place to work as far as what your options are. But so that was a good segment as well. And it's kind of letting you know, as we all know, and I know our commissioners know, the municipals are the lowest paid utility employees when you look at what IOU employees make and what co-op employees make. So that was their big push too, because the municipals are losing positions to co-ops and IOUs all over the country right now. That was about it.
Would you like to update us on the Blue board meeting?
You need to drink of water.
I believe you had a busy month.
The glue board meeting mainly reviewed the wind and what its performance has been to date, which is probably a little better than we thought it was going to be, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, we had a issue with glue that is about $3 million off forecast this year on their budget. And the main reasons for that was the polar vortex and how gas prices spiked up last winter. You know, natural gas prices this winter stayed low all winter. So we were paying more for on-the-market generation, both in intermediate term deals and in stuff we were buying off the day-ahead market in the MISO, just because the prices were up 15 to 20% over past years and above this year. And the generation at Manitowoc, which is owned by Glue, was called upon by the MISO to run a lot more last year than in past years because of the pricing and the troubles with the grid. So that gave us another hit, because typically we can buy it on the market cheaper than they can generate it at Manitowoc and their coal plant. So just a combination of those things pushed the budget to about a $3 million variance. Now, if you're looking at about $80 million a year in wholesale power supply revenue, that's really not that big a variance. So nothing's really going to be done about it. We didn't increase rates, emergency rate increase this year. We just planned for it next year and increase rates by 2% for this year. So, and Glue should have enough in the kitty to cover that variance.
Would you like to mention our centennial?
Next month, yeah.
Next month,
So we
okay.
get more stuff around it. Yeah.
Okay. Mike, do you have any questions?
I've got one, yeah. On this decision-making that's being waited on somewhere in here, I couldn't get my finger to find it right away. There was a comment, the PSC is getting one more member, and that might hold things up.
The Public Service Commission?
Yeah.
Yes, Callisto is done February 27th. He served out his term. He was the only non-Walker appointee left on the PSC. So he's going to be replaced, and the rumor is it's going to be announced next week. And there's even talk that he might replace the chair who he appointed. So there may be 2 new PSC commissioners by the end of this month. So we'll see how that shakes out.
That's the word to use, it could shake.
Yeah. I mean, Callisto is the only one left that is anywhere towards the middle. I mean, the other 2 that have been appointed, Montgomery and Nowak are way on the right side of things. So he was the only one that was towards the middle. So I think we'll see what happens with the PSC bill. A lot of people are fearful of what some of those decisions will come out.
Any other questions or comments for Jim? Accounts payable?
I have a question on page 1, US Bank credit card purchases. I think is that $11,820?
That's we've got a couple of those small cards that we use for small purchases. There's about 8 employees that have credit cards, and that'd be for travel or for small purchases.
Yeah, I guess my point is 11,820. That seems pretty high.
I think there was travel this month, people were booking some of the travel, that's
All right.
over the next couple months. I can get you a breakout,
Yeah.
For those things if
The
you'd
other
like.
thing, Tom, if like a company isn't set up in the system for purchase orders, like an online company, we.
I understand, that a lot of times helps quite a bit if you can
It
do
does.
purchases.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
And it says, we talked earlier, it's the new budget year, so everybody's getting their stuff that was in the budget for this year and taking care of
well,
it.
yeah, I just think it's our job to ask that question.
I agree. Just trying to give you a response.
Mike, did you have any questions?
No, not in regards to this.
Okay. Joe? Do you have any other questions, Tom?
No, I don't, that's it, thanks.
Okay. All right, we don't really have anything up on the agenda after this, so is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Two of us.
okay, thank you.